No doubt, man. I appreciate again the platform, the opportunity to share with your network and also invite my network to yours
Thank
as
you.
well. So for people who don't know me, my name is Thrett Brown, and I'm a resident in the city of Tacoma, which is the state of Washington in the U.S. And, you know, I do a variety of different things, but my most primary focus is like empowering young people to make sure that they have the mental mindset to navigate through the system that they're very unfamiliar with in its wholeness, you know, because a lot of kids realize that they only understand what they've been born into. They don't really understand the prior processes that created this system that they're currently being raised in. So I deal with youth empowerment, business coaching. I've accomplished some certifications in school for small business startups, expansions and business operations, business module canvases, and being able to help people understand the non-complexities of establishing a business structure. You know, a lot of people take it to be more frustrating than it really is because they don't really have the tools. But
Yeah.
I went to school to gain those tools and be able to represent it back out to people. And also business coaching is an important factor to me as well. And now I'm delving more so into this water connoisseur. So it's a water sommelier. And
Yeah.
so I'm learning more about water and the importance of hydration. And I'm a distributor for the Kangen water machines and, you know, just promoting healthy living. And in order for us to really enjoy life, we got to be healthy, right? So that's me in a nutshell for the most part.
Yeah. So I just want to make it clear actually. When you say inner power, what do you describe as the inner power for actually people
So
that don't, because yeah.
yeah, no doubt. What I decided it describes as inner power is truly who I am and truly who people are. You know, we get misconstrued and misinformed of the duality component. You know, for a long piece of time, I've always neglected the physical because I'm considering myself to be more of an inner being. You know, I'm the
Yeah.
light that lives within myself. And so I'm very focused on that. So the inner power is true identity of true self, you know, and a lot of people talk about spirituality, but they don't really connect that piece in
Yeah.
a way that I feel that it should be connected in order for them to really do the powerful things that they're capable of doing,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. I think it's like the same way. I think when you talk about the spiritual side, because now you say like inner power. I mean, knowing self, and inner power is knowing self, and spiritual and the physical. So when you say the physical part, are you talking about just like our outside look, or what do you describe like that when you say physical?
Man, that's exactly what it is. The outside look, the outside perceptions of what people see, because like as me and you communicating on the phone,
Yeah.
we get to feel that we understand and recognize people because I can see you physically.
Yeah.
But in reality, the powers to be is not you physically because it takes everything inside of you to be able to do the things
Yeah.
that you're doing. All things that we do is unseen, you know, because it's energy or emotions that motivate us to do physical interactions with people.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know, the duality component, right, of physical and spiritual. And when it comes to self, you know, we can add a lot of different fashions to it, but I keep it literal, you know, duality, spiritual and physical. I accept both components of me to be able to exist and engage and interact, but I recognize the truth of it all, which is the inner self and spirituality. So to break it down more so, I talk to a lot of people who consider themselves to be spiritually enlightened, but when we have a natural conversation, they always speak from a physical perspective. They always
Yeah.
share information from a materialistic aspect, right? And people think when you hear materials, you think of clothes or you think of things that you can
Yeah.
touch. But materialism is our skin, our flesh, our body, our human nature, right? That's all materialistic as well. And I don't identify myself as the external. You know, I'm never external. I'm not an external individual. I'm an internal person, you know, and people lose sight of that. So we can be as spiritually enlightened as we want, but if you're not connecting that identity piece to you being that spirit person or that spiritual energy, if that's not you, then I can never speak directly to you. I'm just speaking to your form, you know, you as a person, but it's deeper than that. And we all know that everything that we see on the surface is always deeper beneath the surface. And so I speak from a beneath the surface type of way, you know, and it's confusing to a lot of people,
Yeah.
but I like to really unpack that, you know, and I'm glad we're having this conversation about it right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny because, like, as soon as you're actually talking about it, something that actually crossed my mind is because we, we know who we are. Like when you talk about the physical aspect, I know who I am. Like when you talk to people, the energy that you give is based on, who you are physically, the way you look, the way you react to everything. But we never really pay too much attention about the spiritual side of our personality. It's not just about thinking, connecting yourself with the spiritual side, but like actually trying to identify yourself as a spiritual person as well, like your spiritual being. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know if you are talking about that sense as well. You have to actually recognize yourself at, that point. You have to separate the physical part and the spiritual part as well. But they both is the same person, but we need to acknowledge that. And as I always say to people, the same way you actually feed yourself to be strong, to go to the gym, you look good, you eat well, and our spirit, our soul need to be fed as well. And you can only do that if you recognize that, the existence of, of that side of you. I don't know if I'm actually in the same page. Yeah.
No, that's exactly what it is. And so for an example, I have a friend of mine that I've been talking to, we talk on the phone regularly, right? And one of the things that she brings up to the table is that, Thrett, I'm very spiritually conscious. I'm conscious of my spirituality, and when I hear people speak, when I hear in a common conversation, it goes like this. My spirit is a very strong spirit. I have a very strong spirit, or my spiritual essence is a very powerful thing. So that's not claiming ownership to who you are. That's just identifying that you possess something. So as a physical person, and people exclude the facts of not what we say, but how we're saying it, right? And so when I hear somebody say my spirit, so that's letting me know that as a human being, you're telling me about something that you're possessing, right? So you have something in your property or your possession that you can identify. But me, I always say that, like this phrase, this is just a body. And so from a spiritual aspect, this is my body. I'm not my body, but it's my possession. It's something that I have ownership over, right? And so when I move about in life, I move about life in a spiritual aspect, acknowledging my physical presence as an importance, right? Because I can't exclude my spiritual being without identifying my physical abilities. And so what that really looks like in a nutshell is, if you was to take out your ID card, I'm gonna show you like this. And this is one of the workshops that I'm building to work with her with a lot more, right? And so I take my identification card, right?
Yeah.
So if I take my ID, you see me, and this identification card represents everything about me that's physical.
Yeah.
So you can see my name, you can see my weight, you can see the color of my eyes, you can see where I'm from, you can see my address, right?
Yeah.
And this is how people acknowledge everybody on a regular basis, according to what they physically see. So what does your spiritual ID card looks like? And many people aren't creating a spiritual identification card. So what is your spiritual name? Or who are you spiritually, right? And how much do you weigh spiritually? And what is your spiritual address? So the duality piece, we know so much about this, but little about who we are spiritually. And I challenge people to create a spiritual identification card. So that way we can start having that spiritual understanding and acknowledgement of true self. Because after the physical is cast away, then what do a person have? It's all what you are as an energy or as a spiritual individual. And that's something and that's the driving point to any physical or human being, right? So when I see you working out, for an example, there's nothing about you that is physically working out. It's everything inside of you. And you can notice that when you work out, you're not driving yourself physically. You're driving this energy and it's a burning desire, it's a fire inside you that inspire you and motivate you to do your push-ups and do your curls and do your pull-ups. Nothing physical is making you do that. It's the identity inside you that's saying you can do this and you're gonna do this. And that's the identity that I like people to be settled in and very knowledgeable about that truth of that matter,
But
and
do you
most
think
people
do you think people, sorry, no, I don't want to cut you. Do you think people can get it confused with the spiritual and the mindset attitude? Because like, let's say somebody's working today, people always say like, it's all in your mind. We're trying to focus on the mind, on the thought. But do you think, like, what is the difference between both two? Like, just say like the example when you say working out, some people are gonna say, look, when I'm training, it's just my mind, just my mindset. People always use the term mindset, but they don't want to really use the term spiritual side. I think it can be spiritual as well, because it's more than the mind. It's like something inside you is actually pushing your outside. Your outside can feel tired, but the inside is giving you more power. And we can actually feel that. I think when you train, you can actually feel that connection between two energy. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. And that's exactly what it is, bro. Like exactly how you paint it. So when we say a mindset, you can't feel the mind, you can't touch the mind, but it's that powerful that it makes you do things to accomplish things. Even if it's work, you find so many people getting drained from working a job 9 to 5, right? But then what I tell a person is that there's nothing about you that's physically draining about your job. It's just that your energy level is extremely low, or your mental capacity of drive and determination is extremely low.
Yeah.
And that's because you're not identifying yourself as that driving force. I am the driving force within myself, and the key word is within myself. You know, I internally push myself physically to accomplish something. So if I got to get up and I got to go punch my clock every day for 7 days a week, I'm internally saying, get up, go to work, punch the clock. I'm not physically waking up in the morning to go punch the clock, because that's when I lose myself and I forget on why I'm in the space that I am to do my job and pay my bills. And it's the energy drive. And so that disconnect from people, that's where discernment comes from. That's where anxiety comes from. That's because a person excludes that true power of themselves and just start
Yeah.
focusing on what they're enabled to do as a physical person.
I think that's the reason why a lot of people feel empty inside. People have everything, but they always have that feeling of like, oh, you know what, I'm empty. You want to feel something, but you don't know how to feel the cup is empty, actually. I believe that's the reason why, because people focus too much on the outside, on the physical part. And at the end, you feel like people feel lonely, they have anxiety, they feel empty. And then that feeling, you can take drug, everything, you're gonna get out a little bit and you're always gonna come back. So that's the thing as well. I think what you're saying is actually true. But some people that can get it confused when it comes to, let's say, the spiritual side, right? As you say, like you have an ID for the physical part, you can actually identify yourself. So for somebody actually trying to start that journey, how can you actually describe yourself for somebody actually trying to find themselves? You know, at what point you can actually identify yourself? Look, spiritually, this is who I am. How do you start?
All right. So when I work with my youth, one of the things that I express to my youth is to tell me your desires. Give me your imagination, right? That phrase, if you had all the money and all the time in the world, what would you do with it? So the moment that a person starts dreaming, not about what they have or what they feel like they can't physically possess, but once their imagination starts to flow and once their creativity starts to expand itself, and you start to say that, man, if I had all the money and all the time in the world, then I would be traveling all over the world. Or my house would be a 6-bedroom house on 6 acres next to a lake. So when the person starts speaking of that, that's all energy, that's all visual. That's not things that we can see, but the vivid picture that they're painting is something that you can see spiritually, right? So if you was to tell me your desires, then that becomes a true reality. And so within myself, I say that if I can't paint a picture of an imaginative place that I would love to be, or an imagination of what I believe that I truly am, then I would never be able to accomplish that goal. Because one of the things that I accept the fact is that we all physically have an expiration date, right? Everybody has an expiration date. Nobody's going to be here forever. So what does that after space look like? Or what would it look like if you could be there, right? And so another piece of how do I identify myself spiritually is there's a phrase that I got from an old mentor of mine. I'm unweighed and I'm unmeasured. So there's no limitations to who I am as a spiritual being. So that means I'm extremely large. I'm contained in this space, so a person can't see the true self of me, right? So if I come into a space with you, and you know how sometimes you can just feel the energy about somebody, or you can get a vibe about somebody, that's an actual identification of somebody that your spiritual energy is connecting with. You can't see it, but you can feel it. And so when you can feel it, your spiritual self is connected to that spiritual person. So whether it's the vibe that you get, that is the personality. So what type of vibes do we produce? Are we producing a humble vibe? Are we producing a vibe of love and joy? When a person can project that energy, if you can make me feel comfortable around you, you're physically not doing that, but everything about you, energy, and everything about your spirit is making me feel like this, for some reason, this person seems like a good person. And the key thing is you seem like a good person. So what is your personality type? A personality can't be seen, nor can it be touched. So if you got a good personality, then that means you as a spiritual person is a good thing. So that's how I correlate. How do I tap into that? But people are so physical and people are so attached to a world perspective that it's hard for them to discern or just dissect or separate more so. It's hard for them to separate the physical from the spiritual because they're so conditioned to be a person that's just on a worldly routine. I got to get up, I have to go to work, and this is all I do for the rest of my life until I expire. But when you know that, like the movie Hook, for example, you know, if you ever seen the movie Hook, I challenge you, if you never watched it, go watch
Never
the
watch
movie
it,
Hook.
actually. I heard about it, but never watch it.
Man, watch the movie Hook with Robin Williams, bro.
Yeah.
And the movie Hook, it talks about he had all of these capabilities when he was the young Peter Pan, but when he got older and he became more in the physical world, he lost sight of all of his magic and he lost sight of all of the things that allowed him to do the creative things that he was able to do. And so they started to tell him, use your happy thoughts, find your happy thoughts, Peter. And so when he started to find and connect himself to his happy thoughts, not his physical happiness, but his happy thoughts and his happy vibration and his happy energy, then he was able to create magic. And then he was able to produce and make things happen for people and make things happen for himself. And if a person can't sit down and say, okay, spiritual, physical, there's a life inside. If you was to take your spirit from your body right now, what would happen to your body?
I think
your body
gonna die. But there's something as well. The weird thing about it is we all feel like, even when you talk about death, right? We all feel like the spiritual side never gonna die. It's like, let's say today you are not feeling well, like you're really feeling sick or whatever. You know, like you might die because physically you are hurt. Something is not working in your body. You know, like you're about to go, but I don't think you're gonna have it. I don't think you're gonna have the same thought about your spirit side. I think it's the only thing that you're gonna feel like is kind of like is untouchable. Is you cannot destroy it really. I don't know if you cannot. That's the power of it.
Yeah,
that's the power.
And so, can I add to that too?
Yeah, go on.
So when we say that, you know, and that's one of the biggest things that humans are afraid to die because they don't believe in anything after them dying. But my belief is this: I'm not afraid to die because I have an imagination, right? And can't nobody take my imagination from me, and can't nobody take what I would perceive to be a heavenly state for me. So it's crazy how people can make vacation plans. You can set up to where how much your ticket is going to cost for you to go to the Bahamas. You know what hotel you're going to stay in. You know what clothes you're going to wear. You know what restaurants you're going to eat at. You know what tour sites you're going to go and visit and see. You know how long you're going to be on that vacation until you come back home. But what does heaven look like? If we was to use the terminology of heaven, what does heaven look like to you? Because at some point, we're going to have to fly away from here and go somewhere. But if you can't be creative and believe in your imagination, then there's nothing for you, whether it's complete darkness or a complete loss. And when I start adding my pieces up, what is hell? Hell is just a person with remorse and a person with regret about everything that they didn't accomplish while they were here. Not looking at the fact that if I was to tell you that in my imagination, bro, I got a 10-bedroom house on 40 acres with a lake. If I was to die right now, that space that I believe in right now so much would be the identification of the place that I will locate myself at. I believe that much in my spiritual world because me as a spirit, that's my home as a spiritual place.
Because
that's
we
my
never really have,
spirituality.
I don't think we have, that's deep. Even me, I never, you know, it's very hard because if you take the spiritual side and the physical side, we have goal. I want to have big car, big house, wedding, whatever. But if you are paying attention, the more you pay attention to the spiritual side, the more you identify that side as a being, as you know, as a physical side as well. I think the more you're gonna start thinking beyond that, like the way we think about death today, we know like, okay, I need to do this, I need to be careful because one day I'm gonna die, whatever. But the fact we know, like if today the physical side, we know like that physical side was never gonna die. We was gonna make a plan for like maybe 200 years, you know, later. But that means if we know that the spiritual side is not gonna die, it doesn't make any sense why we are so scared, so afraid to try to think about the afterlife. It's not scary because we're not gonna die really when you think about it. I'm talking about the spiritual side. I don't know why what do you think we don't think about it?
Because people are too normalized with humanity, right? humanity's conditioning people to be wrapped up right now. People don't have a long-term, like I said, people tell me to create long-term visions, but long-term here is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
I can't focus on the 401k, right?
Mm.
And if I'm 42 years old, so I really don't have the energy to be focused on the 401k to retire in the next 20 years, because I'm not going to go and get a job and work for the next 20 years and hope that I retire. And when I see people working for these things, it's important because we're here. However, tomorrow is not promised, and the day after tomorrow is not promised, and the next year is not promised. So what I do now with myself is like a business perspective. I create this elaborate space in spirituality, or this spiritual realm, or this galaxy that I have that I would call home away from here. And I paint that picture so well that I'm not afraid to leave here because I know where I'm going. So instead of me doing what I do spiritually, how do I create the prototype? So now my spiritual world, if I got a 10-bedroom house on 40 acres next to a lake and I'm here physically, I can never reanimate my imagination here in its identity as far as details, but I can create the prototype. So instead of a 10-bedroom house on earth that I live in, I got to have a 6-bedroom house on 13 acres. And so I created a prototype, or a mock module, of what my heaven would look like. And that's what sustains me here. And that's what allowed me to build relationships with people. That fear of death. And we got a lot of people that's quick to pick up a Bible and read through the Bible, but people fail to realize that when you say that you believe in God or you believe in Christ, you believe in an entity of something that is not from this world. So how much do we believe in him when he tells us that he has already built a place for us in heaven, per se, right? So if Christ has built a place for me in heaven, why am I not in so much of a hurry to get there if I believe in that so much that I'm afraid to leave it here?
Everybody, I think people are scared to die. People talk about God, talk about heaven, but people are scared to die because they believe, but they don't really believe deeply. Because what I was thinking is, if the more you focus on that spiritual side, the less you're gonna be like scared to die, because you know, like, I'm not really gonna die. The physical part gonna go, but when I close my eye today, I'll identify myself as somebody else other than the physical part. When I open my eye, I can actually connect myself to my hand, to my face, to everything. But when you close your eye, you are somebody else. And if you know that being gonna live forever, it's gonna make you be. I mean, you don't wanna feel like you have to be scared to die. The only way you're gonna be scared of death is just gonna be more like the connection that you have with the physical people around you and the experience that you have. Oh my God, I'm going deep now. The experience that you have in the life that we have in here on Earth. I think that's the thing. That is one question I was going to ask you is, the good thing about the physical part is we can't build relationship with people. I can't talk to you. I know you, everything. I have kids, we got family, everything. You have a lot of things to remember. Like, as much as you say, when you see people, you can't connect spiritually, but do you think there's a way to really like get that spiritual relationship very strong to the point where you believe when the transition is going to happen, you're not really going to lose those people and we're going to be all together? And then, you know, but because now when we have a definition of heaven, it's more like, oh, we're going to go apart. Maybe we're not really going to be family anymore. That's the scary part of it. So do you think there is a way where people are going to feel like, you know what, we all connected, even when we disappear, we all going to be together? So do you think?
Right. I'm glad you said that, because that's what I want to really run into the next thing.
Really?
So this is what it is. So this is a spiritual communication. This is spiritual conversation. There's nothing that we're doing physically, bro. Sure. So this is what that really do look like. So now that I've met you and I hear your thoughts and I hear your visions and our connections on vibe, I got a good vibration with you. So if I was to die physically, I've already made the most powerful relationship that I can possibly ever make with you. And that's a spiritual connection or feeling. I feel comfortable talking to you. I've shared some ideas with you. So when I do leave here physically, all of that's already taken place. So I'm already building that spiritual world with you as we speak right now physically, right? So there's no way that I can ever disconnect from you in its wholeness, because it's the memories. When I leave here physically, I feel that I tap directly into my memory bank. It's almost like a computer, right? If a person was to get an old computer and plug it up to a machine, the machine is going to go and extract all of the data from that computer, from stuff that you couldn't find before. If they start programming and dissecting and extracting that stuff, they're going to find files that we lost a long time ago. So the information is there, the memory is there, the memories that we have, even if I passed away at 80 years old, the good thoughts and the good conversations. That's why I always like to sit with people and I like to dream. I like to share memories, right? And so when we dream and we start talking about, you know, what we want, man, if I can have all of the, man, if I was this, or if I get these things, if this is what it was, the moment that you start sharing those ideas with me, that's in my memory bank. So whether you have it here physically, I know what you would really want. And then spiritually, you have it, because if you can think it, it's already yours, right? So if you can imagine it in yourself, it's already there. So if I was to part ways with you physically, if I woke up in a spiritual world, everything that you've ever shared with me on the memory is going to be the exact way that I see you, because that's my true organic relationship that I do have with you. You know, now once I became this spiritual person that I am, and this spiritual being that I am, then I accept myself, because like you said a few minutes ago, I can't ignore myself physically, because physically we need ourselves physically to engage. I got to shake your hand to make a connection physically. So I respect the physical form of me, you know. And so now in a space of, if I was to separate myself from this physical world, then that means I don't care about being here at all. In reality, I really don't care about here, because if I know that we all die one day, then, you know, I'm more in a hurry to get there, because my kids will be there. And another mentor of mine told me that if you wanted to experience death, then go to sleep. And then when you read in the Bible tells you in so many ways that death is the cousin of sleep. So sleep and death go hand in hand, right? And so there's been times where you done had a dream about the most amazing thing, whether it was dead relatives or dead friends that you don't have anymore. You've had dreams that seem so real, and the reason why you was upset when somebody woke you up, because you really rather had been there than to be woke up to this space. Whether we have kids, whether we have mothers, whether we have anything, if you're upset because somebody woke you up, then that means that you were more content there. But now also imagine being in a dream that you wish somebody would just wake you up from. And then we imagine not having a body to wake up to. That
The
becomes
good
your
thing about the
results.
dream as well, what you're thinking, the good thing about the dream as well, sometimes we think a lot about something. Like I have a lot of idea about something. I'm thinking. The fact the thought is so strong, you go to sleep and you actually start living. Like, I mean, you start actually having experience of the thought that you have. It become reality on your dream. And you're so happy because you have everything that you wanted to have. And that's actually bring me back to what you were saying about the fact you are thinking about something, and then when you die, that's going to be your heaven. Because if we're trying to think about all this beautiful idea that we have, and you go to sleep, you start dreaming about it, as you say, you feel so good in your dream and you don't want to wake up. I think
that's reality to me. To me, that is the ultimate reality, because like I say, at the end of the day, that will happen. We will sleep, and this body will not get up at some point. So like and to go to sleep with negative thoughts and negative energy, that's how nightmares occur. You can't tell me one person that has ever woke up in a cold sweat and asked them, why is you sweating? They're going to say, man, I was getting chased by somebody in my dreams. And the reason why they woke up panicking and breathing hard, because that shit was real. And the only way that they realized it wasn't real is because they woke up. You can't wake up from something breathing heavy, pressing hard, and you thought, man, it was a dream.
It's the same,
you know?
sorry, but it's the same when people have a dream like they're having sex.
Yeah.
You know, in the dream, and you wake up, it happens as well. You feel like, oh my God, why am I this way? And
straight up.
It's because, that's crazy, because even the outcome, it happened physically. The connection was so strong, you can still feel it, like, you know, physically as well. I think that's the thing about it. But there's one thing. Do you think you can have that connection without being religious? Without believing in God?
No. I would say, and for my sake, I would never be able to have that connection or that experience or that idea if I didn't have the connection that I do have with God, right? I have that connection with God. And again, that's the reason why I feel so firmly about not being afraid of death. And that's why when I start reading through scriptures, and the scriptures tell me that he who fears death will suffer it, and those who don't fear death will not suffer the second one. The second death to me is me dying in this world that we live in today. I'm going to leave here physically. So I believe in Christ so much to the point to where I trust him, that if I believe enough, I have nothing to worry about when I expire. Now, until I expire, what do? I build. I build, and I build with magnificence. I build strong relationships. I'm on planet Earth right now, bro, to feel like I need to meet as many different people so I can build as many memories as I can possibly build. So when I do die, there's a world that's so magnificent because of all of the great memories and ideas that I've shared with people that we would never have reached as long as we lived on Earth, right? So I believe in a spiritual separation. However, I respect my physical abilities while I'm here. And that's why I used to confuse people when I spoke to them a lot, because I'll just jump in directly and just start talking about myself as a spiritual being. Forget the physical. I don't care about the physical. The physical is irrelevant to me. But then I start to realize that I'm talking about and talking to people who can't connect to the spiritual. So
And
that
they
this
call you
connect.
crazy if you start thinking that way.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm
Like,
saying? And
this is crazy.
so now I have to make sure that I can discern now when I'm talking to a spiritual aware person versus a physical person or human being person that just lives in this world for this time. Because you have some people that say, I just live my life the way I live it and eventually I die. To me, those are just human being people that are just going their route. But when I
It
start
hurts me
talking to
because
people,
it hurts me because when I feel like people don't care about, when you don't pay attention to this kind of thing, is that you don't really care about yourself, really.
yeah,
Because the true you is the inside, the spiritual side. And if you don't care about that person, it's like you don't care about your soul, your spirit being thrown away somewhere. Anybody can take it and do whatever they want to do with it. It's like,
and that's why you got people get emotional and people get angry. This is how people can come and anger you, not you, but this is how people can come and make people upset or make people depressed or make people worried. That's because a person have the ability to come in and tap into an energy that you have no control over. Once you have control over your inner self, then that's your worries. When we talk about spiritual warfare, most people hear spiritual warfare and think of angels flying or demons coming out the ground and the spirits are going to war, but fail to realize that a spiritual war is the way you feel, the way that you think, your emotions, your worry, your anxiety. All of those things are spiritual attachments. And so if somebody is able to make you upset to the point where you start eating and you start losing weight and you start catching lesions and sores and you just become so depressed, that's somebody that's having a victory in your spiritual war battles with yourself. But when you know what you are spiritually, and when you know what you're capable of doing as a spiritual energy, then there's not many things that anybody can do that disturb your energy or disturb your emotions for the most part.
all right. I know you work with a lot of kids, youth, that's what you've been doing for actually many years. But like, as a father today, how can you give that? Because I grew up in a family where I'm very spiritual, like my mother, she's like, Christian. And then, I know all these things, the connection with the spirit is something that you're never gonna go. But as growing up, becoming a father, I feel like sometimes it's hard to give it to the kids. And then when I don't give it, I kind of feel guilty. The more my son grew up, the more I feel guilty because I don't want him to be empty. I don't want him to be lost in the world where we're living today, because the world today is crazy. In school, they don't teach kids those things, man. They actually, school actually help kids to be lost, and society and everything, and TV. And sometimes I get pissed off when I come home. My son is watching TV, all this video game all the time. I'm like, no, watch anything else. I want you to watch TV, but I'm tired of you watching just people playing games. Watch something else. Yeah, but at the same time, I don't want to be too much. But what can you say? How can you actually give this kind of information to kids, help them to, tomorrow to become like a better adult, to not be lost? Because I know, like, when you're a child, when you give the kids those information at a young age, they're definitely gonna be a better person when they're gonna grow up. So how do you actually do that?
All right, so one of the things that is important is to, one, I realize that I don't disturb, and we find traditionally and conditionally and normalization of a world culture, right? So here in America, America's set on culture landmarks, whether it's holidays, whether it's all of these expectations, whether it's birthdays. We've all been conditioned to instill these same qualities and traits inside of our kids. So I realize now that if we don't disturb a child's imagination, then a child could become at more spiritually than we could possibly imagine. It's only till we start indoctrinating them with the social norms, right? So once we start putting our kids into the fashionable things, because if you look at the average kid, when you raise your child up, your child wouldn't care about, you can go and buy them the most expensive shoes in the world, but they rather slide around in the house in the shoebox that you bought the shoes in.
Yeah.
You know, because they don't care about anything until we start instilling it and until we start making it become a fashionable statement. So now we're starting to indoctrinate our kids because we've been indoctrinated with these social norms and these structures. So when I work with my youth, I always ask my youth, one of the first things that we do is I find the alter ego. Because a lot of kids find themselves stuck and stagnated in certain spaces. But when you start saying stuff like alter egos and pick a character, and so you got young people that's like, oh man, I feel like Iron Man. So I'm like, okay, so now let's dissect Iron Man. So when they start dissecting Iron Man, his personality traits, the quality of him, what is his lifestyle like? So now when they're in a position to want to build or be creative, then they put their Iron Man suit on. So when I got young people that's into sports, like my nephew, for an example, my nephew was into sports and he was like, you know, let me use working out. When we was working out, I would always ask them, man, how come you ain't doing your deadlifts or you ain't doing it? He was like, man, this stuff is heavy. So I was like, alter ego. So he's like, my alter ego is the Hulk. And so when he become the Hulk on the weight room, he gets it. You know, he gets it and he gets it. So we have a personality alter ego, then we have a economic alter ego. So who is your economical alter ego? And somebody might come and say, I like Steve Jobs, or, you know, and when they say Steve Jobs, I'm just like, so what do you know about Steve Jobs? And the more they start to dissect Steve Jobs and they realize that a lot of bull crap has to cut out, a lot of stagnant energy has to cut out, a lot of discipline has to be instilled, hard work has to be instilled, follow through and consistency with whatever idea and goals and dreams that you do have. This is the way that we pursue it. When it comes to like my son, you know, we talk seldomly here and there because of our situations. But when I speak to my son is very spiritual aware of what he is and not who he is. He's aware of what he is. My son's known to the fact of if something was to happen to him, he has an imagination that he can live in. He has a visualization of everything that he wants in life. And if he can't get it in this world, then he knows that it wasn't meant for this world. So when people have kids, I'm not a church going person, but I'm a Bible person. I read my Bible consistently. And I encourage young people to be able to identify themselves inside of the book, you know, and when a person starts reading through the book, you can find yourself in the book, and you can find seldomly and oftentimes that there's certain characteristics in the books that you're probably living in your exact moment right now. You got people with, you know what I'm saying, with suffering problems. So I was like, read the book of Job. So when they read the book of Job, then they can start saying, oh, dang, so I'm going through a lot because I'm being pressed. So how do I build my faith and build my energy up to be able to deal with life as itself? I don't really share religious things with youth that I work with. But when it comes to my seed or my family, like my nephews and them will come to the table and let people know that I'm not a human being. Though you might view me as a human being, but I'm not. Though I will operate and socialize like a human being, the end all to me is amazing, because when I die physically, I am everything that I'm supposed to be with no limitations. So they believe in that, and they've been believing in it ever since they was children. So now they're able to live a good life, but they know that this life is limited and it's not mandatory, nor is it guaranteed to be a longevity thing. So they got a place in their mindset to where in the future, they set themselves up and they plan to schedule out till they're 60 years old or 80 years old. What would that look like? And they make efforts to make that a reality, but they don't bank on that. They're not here to bank on their end all be all to what they accomplish right now in this world. They just do that because they're able to, and it keeps them occupied until the expiration time comes. So that's one way that I look at it. And like they say with kids, if we raise our kids to believe in Santa Claus, and there's no doubt to them about Santa Claus being real. We raise them about the Easter Bunny, there's no doubt to them believing that the Easter Bunny is not real. They believe what everything that we tell them. So if we start telling them about the spiritual aspects and the spiritual components of things, they're going to believe that just as much as they would believe in any holiday or any fake character that we would probably ever see in this world. So I guess that it's most important to just speak truth to them. And then if that's your seed,
Yeah,
then you speak
I think
whatever
that's the
truth
thing.
that you want.
Yeah. There's no need
Go
to
ahead.
hide anything. You just tell them the truth.
Tell them the
Because
truth.
we tell them fiction, lie, and thing doesn't exist sometimes, whatever. But when it comes to the truth, it's just crazy. When it comes to the truth, we know it's not going to hurt them. But why are we hiding the truth to the kids so much? I think that's
Conditioning.
kind of
We've been
scary.
conditioning. Yeah, we've been conditioned that way. Because if you think, if we start telling the kids the truth, then all of these things that we know right now, when we see stuff that's odd and strange, we seeing it now as adults. So we're able to take action on certain things that we see. But if we start instilling that same truth into our kids, then they're able to discern those situations at an earlier age. So they don't have to grow up with all of these different fictitious situations. They grow up in truth. That's like that term to where if you got a child and you start talking to your kids like, hey, look at the baby. Oh, look at the baby. Then the baby doesn't adapt the ability to speak plain English, right? But when you start talking to your kids like they're real live people, then they start to understand real live conversation. And that's like if you start teaching your child algebra at the age of 1, by the time that they're 3, they know algebra. It's just, what are we instilling into them? And we're so afraid to build them up because systematically we know that we've been conditioned to not believe that large, because the more powerful we become, then the more changes that we can make. And then when we get older, it's hard for us to make those direct changes because we've missed so many barriers. But when our kids are being brought up with truth and honesty, like I let my child, there's no this, there's no that, don't believe in this and don't believe in that. That's my seed, and I'm gonna tell them what I want to be told. And I don't care what anybody else has to say. I'm gonna instill in minds. If you don't limit to your children and say, if your kid feel like they can do telekinesis and they can move objects, don't interfere with telling them, and that's where we go wrong at. We start indoctrinating that you can't. But if you leave a child alone, we would be surprised on what they would be able to do as far as powerful moves and powerful magical things. We would be surprised of everything they could do because they don't have no doubt. We instill the doubt into our children. We put up the barriers in front of our children. And then when they get older, they start to realize, and then they start having doubt with us because we wasn't as honest as we should have been, because they start to realize
Yeah, they're gonna be
everything
like,
that
you
we
never
taught them was
believe in me.
fictitious.
You never believe in me. You tell me I was not gonna do this. I prove you I could do it. But even if they don't believe in themselves, if you believe in themselves more than they believe in themselves, and one day they're gonna say, you know what? Even when I didn't believe in myself, Daddy always tell me like I'll be able to do it, and today I did it because he told me so.
Straight up.
That's man.
Straight up.
That's that's good, man. So, man, that's why I love talking to you, because you always have that, that energy. And sometimes I go to your Facebook, I see the way people respond to you, because people are not ready for. Sometimes when you tell too much truth, you become disconnected because you are focused too much on the spirit side. That is truth. But the thing is, people are focused too much on the physical side. They cannot understand what you're saying, and they're gonna feel like you're crazy, and I feel like you just talk no sense. So what do you think, I'm sure, what do you think you struggle the most when it comes to this? Especially as let's say as a Black people, when you see today's society and the way we're actually moving, do you think us as a people, do you think we are becoming better? We are becoming like, we are going somewhere better than before. We are waking up, because I see there's a lot of movement right now. People are talking about woke, but do you think we really like going to the right way?
A few, and
Or
I
maybe we
mean
are
a very
focusing on the
short
physical
few.
part because everybody want to get rich.
Right. And then so that's what I be saying. If you want to be rich, to be imaginative. Imagine the rich. That's why they tell you, if you want to be a rich person, then imagine it. You have to have the thought first. Everything that we see created from a house to a car, it was all derivative from a thought, right? So if you can't have an imagination of being rich, then there's nothing about you that's physically going to ever be rich. And so you can think that way, and until you can believe your thoughts, then none of that will ever manifest into a reality state for you as a person. As far as us as a people, I feel that we dance around with the idea of being woke to our true selves. And I feel deeply in myself that that's just a pastime thought. They just do it because it's a trend. They do it because, I think that this is the best way for me to start going about life. But when they sit by themselves, they don't really believe half of the stuff that they post, nor do they believe half of the things that they're surrounded by. My biggest frustration comes from now is that it's not what people feel and how people feel. It's just how many people that I will not be connected with in the end of everything. When everything is done, I didn't build enough powerful relationships with a lot of beautiful people. when I read through the good book, and this is one thing that helps me stay, this is one thing that allowed me to be grounded and accept what can't change and won't change. Because when you start reading through the book, it starts to tell you that 2/3 of the world will perish, right? And so 2/3 of the world will perish. And if a person really believes in the Bible, like they say that they believe in the Bible, and the Bible says that 2/3 of the world will perish, that means out of 7 point something billion people, then 4,666,666,666 people will perish. Another 2,330 some million people will survive. So I'm not here to build relationships with everybody. I'm here to make the proper connections with the people that are willing to receive me. And then even when I come across people that are so humanized and so worldly, they still have a spirit, right? And so I want to build a relationship with that aspect of a person. I don't get physically wrapped up in people. I stopped doing it a long time ago, bro. So, I got to realize when I'm talking to a human being or when I'm talking to a spiritual being. And the moment that I can speak to a spiritual being, then me and that spiritual being say, now let's have a human life conversation.
Because I think we have to make that. I think it's very hard for it. Like when you have that connection, spiritual connection, it's very hard for that people to kind of hurt you as well. The feeling is different. The emotion is different. I think like the physical bring a different type of emotion as well. So I think it's just even the connection is different because there's nothing really that gonna hurt you physically. It's just different, to be honest. If you feel different, you feel more free, to be honest.
I'm very free, man. And I'm just confined to what I'm living in right now. And I accept this world as it is. Like people say that they believe in God, and then people say that we are the children of God, right? What they disconnect and the part that they do not connect together is that if God came here for his children, right? If he came for his children, he's not taking you physically and he's not taking me physically. This will not go to where he's saying he has a place for you. So it's whatever inside of you as a physical person, that's what he comes from. And that is his child. So if you can't become that spiritual identity, then you're not the child of that person, because there's nothing about you physically that he even wants. The only thing that he wants from us physically is to be able to move and share the gospel, for us to move and build relationships, for us to be able to connect and verbalize conversations with people. This is the only important for this temple, this vessel, this vehicle, or this housing unit that I have. When Christ tells me that, when I come for you, I'm like, please come for me. The body can do whatever it's going to do because it's not me. It's a possession of mine as a spiritual being. This body is mine, and I respect it, and I appreciate it, and I'm going to take care of it. But I'm not it, and I never confuse myself with being it. And that's what people do. People are so wrapped up with the vanity, you know what I'm saying? The way that they look, or the way that they feel, or the way that they show up, or the things that they have. And that's not the truth of what it really is at the end result, because everything has an expiration date, from our cars to our shoes to our physical body. It would all be discarded at some point. So I don't want to be discarded. I want to live forever. So I have to be the thing that lives forever. And that's the internal self, not the physical self. If that makes sense.
Yo, man, of course it makes sense. It makes sense. God damn.
My guy said, of course that makes sense, right?
Of course, man. How can I not make sense, man? Yo, man, like, wow, I appreciate, man. That's why I love talking to you, because you always lift me up, and you always, every time I talk to you, you always, I don't know, you always make me become better. Like I remember the last time I spoke to you we was talking about gangster rap. We was talking about a lot of things, like, people on the street, drug and everything, kids, childhood, the way you grow up, gun violence and everything. Since I have that conversation, a lot of things have changed in my mind, even my relationship with my son, the way I connect with the kids. Even my friend that have kids, the information I'm actually giving them is different. It's actually, I got it from you, from your own experience as well. It's a lot of things have changed. And now, since we have this conversation today, I just want to go to my bedroom, and grab the Bible, sit down with my son and read the Bible before he go to bed. And just want to do every single day. And that's the idea that I'm having right now in my mind. Like, I just need to share those kind of information. I don't need to be scared to tell the truth. Whatever I believe is the truth, I don't have to be scared to share the truth with my blood, with my family, with people I care about, because that's what love is about. Love is not about lying to people about the truth and then telling them things that is not true, and then it doesn't make any sense. That's what I've
Right.
learned from the conversation that we're having today. And then I really appreciate, all the things that you're saying. As I say, I'm gonna organize like a live things with. I have one of my friends. She's very smart, deep. You're gonna love her as well. We're gonna have a conversation on the live on Instagram. We're gonna do something, and I really want as much as people as I want. I want people to listen to you as much as the feeling that you have about meeting a lot of people, connecting with people spiritually. I feel the same every time I talk to somebody that is wise and somebody is actually making me become a better person. I feel like the information is so deep. I don't want to keep it for myself. I want as many as people to get that information as well. So this is what I wanted to say about you. Like you inspire me a lot with whatever you say you do at your business. And next time we're gonna talk about your business as well. We need to go through that. Before we finish, and anything else you want to say based on the conversation that we have, so hoping to you now before we wrap it up for people actually listening to us today.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, man, create your spiritual identification card, man. For anybody that's out there, it's okay to be physical because that's what we are at this particular time. But who are you as a spiritual person? Create a spiritual birth certificate. The same thing as you would see on the birth certificate. What does your spiritual certificate look like? The same thing as your identification card. What does your spiritual identification card looks like? And the moment that you can identify yourself with details as a spiritual being, then come back to life, then go to your job, then eat at the dinner table, then go play with your kids, then go and work out. But know what you are versus who you are in the alignments of what we're doing while we're here, because this isn't forever. And at some point we will leave here to go somewhere. So be imaginative of what that would look like. Just like you would set a vacation for somewhere else, what does your vacation look like when your time expires here, whenever it does? And the faster that you do it, the less stress you have to worry about when you're on your deathbed trying to figure out, oh man, I didn't do enough. Do enough now and just be creative with your thoughts and believe in what you feel in your mind. That's it, bro.
You say something. So you always got me talking, man. You say something about know what you are instead of who you are. That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
So when people always we meant to talk about the other way. What is the difference between both? What you are and who you are. Who you are is
because who we are is this. If I say who are you, the first thing a person say, oh, I'm such and such. What year was you born? Oh, I was born in 1978. Okay, that's who you are. That's everything about you. But then when I say what are you, that's the unseen. That's something. That's a different entity, right? So that's what. So when I ask you, what are you? Then people say, what? What do you mean? That's a disconnect from spirituality. So your spiritual is what you are, and your physical is who you are. And most people know more about who they are than they do what they are.
I think what you are is like, I think the title is more powerful. It's like today, if you're a super, let's say like you're a Superman, right, or Spider-Man, you wore like a suit like nobody, like normal people, and then somebody asks you like, what you are? I'm like, I'm Superman. Really? Because
Straight
this
up.
is
Straight up.
You get what I'm saying, right?
Because until then, who you are is Clark Kent. Until then, you just Clark Kent. That's who you are. I'm Clark Kent.
I think
that's your
it's that
disguise.
I'm a king, I'm whatever I am. Even when people, these days people say a lot king, but I don't think people really mean what they say. Just saying the way because it's cool, it sounds cool, everything. I'm black, whatever, but I think it's deeper than that. So I just want to say to finish, thank you for having you today. For everybody actually want to get in touch with Thrett Brown, you can actually, I'm gonna put all the link on the description, Facebook, Instagram, everything. Like, you guys really need to listen to him and put all the information there as well. But it's not over. We have a lot of things we want to talk about. All the title, the topic that you gave me, I really want to go through every single one with you. Actually, I really want to do that because I always love having a content with you. I appreciate that. And see you next time. And good luck for the business you're doing, for your water business as well. I want to talk about it as well because I'm surprised what you're doing. I'm speechless, man. So thank you for that, and see you next time.